Hi, Montana. I'm just jumping on today. It's Friday, and there's just some really bizarre news that came out yesterday. I mean, bizarre in these times, I guess that's a tough one to hit because we've got all sorts of odd things happening all the time. The government's still shut down, has been for a few weeks. I don't see any end in sight. Just to keep you up to date on what we're hearing. That will impact our services pretty soon. I'll tell you more about that in another broadcast. Really, today I just wanted to jump on impromptu because this article that came out of Great Falls has really been nagging at me for the last 24 hours or so. The Montana Free Press and the Independent Record, that's the Lee publications, newspapers have reported on a candidate forum that was held earlier this week where a candidate running for office up in Great Falls suggested as a response to homelessness or seeing homelessness as an opportunity, not as a negative blight on your community, but said, why don't we turn it on its head? Let's make some money off of homelessness. Let's create it as a tourist attraction. We'll create a homeless island. And we will charge people to go to Homeless Island and see the exotic homeless people, apparently. We will charge businesses to advertise on Homeless Island. They can put their advertisements on this shanty town that they build. People who live on Homeless Island could sell their wares in Homeless Island Market. This is shocking to me as an advocate, as a human being, as the son of a homeless man. I just can't see how we got here. But I can look at history and know that it's predictable we would have gotten here. And I thought, oh, well, I might as well. I went through all the trouble of pulling up the article so you can see here that let's look at it. Great Falls candidate suggests congregated neighborhood for unhoused as tourist attraction. And so you can check out the Montana Free Press on that. And it's there. Like I said, there's also an Independent Record article about this. So I'm not being hyperbolic. These are actually the thoughts that came out in a public event about local government policy, what should be done in Great Falls. And hey, Great Falls, I get it. The falls, they're okay, but Great's pushing it a little bit. You're not Kalispell Whitefish with Glacier right outside your back door. You're not Gardner and West Yellowstone and Big Sky with your skiing and your Yellowstone National Park right outside your backyard. So you're grasping at straws. But I want to put out there, anyone in the comments down below or right now, if comments are open. I don't know who has money for big vacations these days, but let's say you're one of those people. You've got money for a big vacation. Are you flying to Great Falls, taking some connecting flight through Denver and going up to Great Falls in order to spend your limited time and money at Homeless Island, and then going to buy the Homeless Island t-shirt so you can come home and say, oh, you wouldn't believe it. I understand Big Sky's up and coming and they got billionaires living there and the skiing and Justin Bieber or whoever's there that particular day. And, oh, you should have seen who I was pre-skiing with. But no, I got the shirt from Homeless Island in Great Falls, home of Reggie Watts. Maybe this is the alt tourist destination. You all tell me. Of all the places in the world you could travel, would you be going up to Great Falls to go to Homeless Island? I live in Helena, which is a little over an hour from Great Falls. I would never go to Homeless Island. I would never buy the Homeless Island t-shirt. I would not frequent the local hardware store that advertises on the side of homeless shantytown. So it's not drawing me from an hour away. Hey, folks who live in Great Falls, would you be headed down there? It's like, oh, should we go to the farmer's market this afternoon, or should we catch a little ferry over to Homeless Island and check that out? Is that what Great Falls is missing? So as a tourist destination, I don't know if you can get locals to go to it. You certainly wouldn't get people within an hour's distance to drive to Great Falls to do it. And I can't see someone spending a day on a plane, making a connecting flight and getting up to Great Falls in order to go to Homeless Island. But short of being just a bad business idea, it's a bad business idea. It is bad business at its core. It is seeing human beings as merely a product to make money off of, not as, oh, you need something, let me help you get it. You know how many people are unhoused in Great Falls? In the article, it estimates a little over 200. 200 human beings. It should not be difficult to come up with a way to find housing for 200 human beings. Not all of those would need individual housing units. Some are families with children. Instead of putting them in a little shanty town on an island and charging spectators to go view them, what would it take to find an apartment complex that could fit two more families in, and then another apartment complex that could fit another two people, and build another apartment complex? Instead of building some tourist destination island, we could just build housing. Now, as a point I mentioned earlier, I was surprised, but not really, because history tells us this is what happens. I've got an article up here about Bedlam. Wealthy visitors toured Bedlam Asylum. This is a blog entry. And if you're not familiar with Bedlam, you've probably heard the word Bedlam. Like, it was Bedlam. It was wild. It was, to use the sanest word, crazy. Something, when you are saying something in a derogatory way, that something is extreme. It was Bedlam. That is, if you think of sort of like a Cockney accent, and there's a hospital in London called Bethlehem, and so they'd say Bedlam. And so it became known. The Bethlehem Royal Hospital became known as Bedlam, and it's been around for hundreds of years. And in the 1770s, they stopped. Before that, they provided tours, but in the 1770s, I've highlighted this section, until the 1770s, this palace of lunatics, again, very sanest language, but how folks were referring to this place back then, opened its doors to paying spectators. Visitors could walk freely through the corridors, observing and provoking the patients as if they were animals in a zoo. It became the custom of the idle classes, the nobility and their friends, to visit Bedlam and observe the antics of the patients as a novel form of amusement. So I just get back to this. This is surprising that in my community, just up the road, there is a real politician running for a real local office, trying to create a real local attraction for making money off of people who are unhoused, many people who have had difficult things show up in their life, and this doesn't really make it any easier for them, but it does make the money side of it easier. So while this is as I said before, a bad business idea from a business perspective, it is an idea for a bad business, a business that exploits human beings. But we've been in that business for a very long time. Even the monarchs of England, when they ran hospitals, tried to figure out ways that they could make money off of the patients who lived there, and ways they could use that as a social wedge, a wedge between the haves and the have-nots, a wedge between people who are sick and people who do not identify as having mental health related needs. And this social wedge is dangerous. It is eugenic. It is thinking that this is a problem located inside the human. It is located inside the genes, the existence of that individual, as opposed to seeing this as inside the existence of our culture, a culture that is vastly rich, that has communities like Big Sky with millions and billions of dollars at its disposal. And then we can't figure out up the road in Great Falls how to house 200 people. 200 human beings would not cost billions of dollars. We have billions of dollars at our disposal in this country to fix problems. We have trillions of dollars to fix problems. Figuring out how to make human beings, even human beings who do not have access themselves to money, a means of making money is an idea for a bad business. A business that even if it were successful would be bad. I don't, as I proposed earlier, think this would be successful in any way whatsoever. I could be naive. Maybe the cruelty of America, or at least the cruel elements of America, would love to go hop on a boat and go to an island or walk across a bridge and gawk at, provoke, as this blogger mentions, the people who live in these entities, see them rile up and get angry, but not so angry that they get kicked off the island. Because, as we all know, once you're kicked off the island, you're no longer part of the show. Is that what the beginning of this is? This is the beginning of the end. This is your last shot. This is your last chance. If you end up in Bedlam, in those dank, rock-covered walls, this is it. It might as well be the Tower of London. Is that what this is? If you aren't on the island, you're in the river. There is no other option. We have tried to turn you into a commodity to sell to the community. The community is not buying. Your show is canceled. I am flabbergasted that anyone who wants to participate in setting up policies for our community is thinking that this is a policy that should not only sort of rattle around in their head, but come out in a public forum where we are here to discuss what are your policies, what do you bring to the table? And what you bring to the table is, why don't we try making money off of and attracting tourists, attracting the type of people who would want to attend this human zoo on an island in the Missouri River in Great Falls, Montana. I don't think it can hold a candle to Glacier. Don't think it can hold a candle to Yellowstone. I don't think it can hold a candle to the relatively dud Great Arch of St. Louis. I don't think it can hold a candle to the garbage-eating goat in Spokane. But nonetheless, there is a policy being promoted that maybe this is the way forward. Instead of investing our time into creating an apartment building, several apartment buildings, buying houses that need to be fixed up anyways on a given block and seeing if we can fix them up and then move human beings into them to give life back to that house and to that neighborhood and attend to the local schools, shop at the local grocery stores. No, let's segregate all the poor people in town, put them on an island and charge people to look at them. Right now, I don't know. I think that's part of the biggest problem is people who don't like homelessness not wanting to see homeless people. They're fine that they exist. They just don't want to see them in their downtown core. Why would you think anyone would attend a tourist attraction for it? Perhaps, I don't know, do you get to throw rotten tomatoes at poor people? I don't know what the attraction is. You get to buy things at the market. Could we not support people who are unhoused in starting small businesses, selling things at the local farmers market, selling things in in the more traditional supply chain to get them into malls and big box stores and other local bookstores. No, the idea is to create a homeless island with a homeless market where people can sell their wares there as some sort of charity or pity. When we have elaborate programs set up that could help people who want to start small businesses. There are just barriers to doing those things. Lots of local community colleges and areas of commerce, chambers of commerce and local communities have resources and classes and support for people who want to start small businesses. If politicians want to run on, hey, I'd really like to get people into their own employment programs, entrepreneurial programs for people who are currently unhoused, that sounds great. But to bundle that with some sort of bizarre tourist attraction where that's where you would sell your wares and they really sell just as a form of pity, not because they actually meet some need in the marketplace, that is just bizarre. So I wanted to jump on today because it's just swimming around in my head over and over of how did we get here? How did we, and the reason I wanted to jump on here as opposed to just complain to the people around me and bother them is the Growth Rings podcast. I keep coming back to it in every episode. How do we help Montana culture become disability culture? And you may ask yourself, why are you trying to change Montana culture into disability culture? And I don't think it's a change. It's a change of mindset. It's a change of focus. But I think at its core, Montana culture is a caring culture. It's a human-sized culture that relates human to human. Cares less about your political affiliation, how much money you have in the bank, what brand of clothes you're wearing, and it cares about helping your neighbor when their car is stuck in their driveway and they can't get out to get to work. It's about helping someone who their house is in a burn area and they need some place to move their horses or their sheep so that they don't get burnt. They can themselves get to a hotel or they can stay with family, but how are we going to get the animals to safety? We rally together. We try and make that work. It's about someone getting hurt at work and bringing a casserole over so they don't have to stand there on their feet and cook for their kids when their kids get home. That's human to human, compassionate, not figuring out, well, how much can I charge you for this casserole? You willing to pay $9? If not, I'm going to take it down the street, see if I can get at least $9 from somebody else. I mean, I put $8 worth of ingredients in this. Isn't my time not worth at least $1? We would never have that type of conversation. And the idea that Montana culture is all that different than disability culture, no, it's not. It's getting wrapped up into some cruel rhetoric that really paints other human beings as the problem, when instead the problem is we don't have enough houses. The problem is the houses we do have are far too expensive. The problem is you can be 100 miles from a clinic that has the resources you need if you live in rural or frontier Montana. So you need to move to some of the towns, but you might not have the natural supports you need in those communities. Those are some very real problems that affect Montanans on a daily basis. And the disability community says the answer is to not move towards cruelty, but move towards acceptance and say, what can we do to help? We don't put value on our human-to-human relationships in dollar figures. So if you come and you tell me you have a need, I ask myself, do I have the resources? Not, is it a good business idea? But we certainly don't come up with bad businesses, ideas for bad businesses, in order to make money off of a problem. Instead, we try to identify what the problem is and stop it. The problem here is extremely expensive housing. The problem here is not enough housing. The problem here is jobs that don't pay enough to access that housing. We're the least affordable state in the nation. That's because we have really expensive cost of living and really low wages. We could get off of the bottom of that list by decreasing cost of living and increasing wages. You could do one or the other or both. Those are some real fixes. How, as a local community, can you do that? But, just pouting because you're not Kalispell and you're not Bozeman and you don't have incredible national parks in your backyard, and say, how can we get tourism here? If only we had a hook. And I tell you, Homeless Island is not that hook. So abandon that idea and come up with a better one. I'd say ask people who are unhoused, ask people who have disabilities, ask people who've lost their jobs because the government shut down, ask people who've had to move because they can't afford the rate increases at their apartment building what the fixes are, and they'll give you lots of good ideas because they are a part of the impacted community, and the people most impacted by the problem are the ones closest to the solutions. They know exactly at what moment they could no longer afford their apartment. They know exactly at what moment the savings from the previous month are not sufficient to pay the bills this month. So ask them. Don't sit back and think, if only we could figure out a way to make money off of people who are unhoused. What would that look like? Sure. We could all spitball some different ideas, throw things around like it's a Saturday Night Live writer's room, and come up with absurd ideas on how to deal with this problem. But if you want real solutions already exist. They exist. Tenant one in the disability community, listen to the people with lived experience. They will tell you how the problem shows up in their life. Now we can be grounded in facts, and that's the best place to build policy. Not on rhetoric, not on global macroeconomic theories, and not on wishes that, man, if only we had the luck to be located right next to a natural wonder that people travel from Japan and Africa and all over the world to come see. Instead, ask yourself, what is Joan? What is Philip? What is Enrique? What are they seeing in our communities to be fixed? I will start working on fixing that today. That's the way to come up with solutions. And that's the way of grounding disability policy and disability culture with Montana culture and Montana policy. That's what I mean. I don't about making Montana culture disability culture. They're not far off. But you need to embrace that connection. You need to embrace the reality of what's going on in our communities. And who knows most about how to fix our communities, but the people who are not currently being served well. So the second we start embracing everyone in our communities, especially the very vast, diverse, huge community of people with disabilities, once we figure out, if we design this system so it worked for people with disabilities, it would work for everybody else as well. So once we make Montana culture disability culture, we'll have a community that works for everybody. I appreciate you listening to me this afternoon, and I hope that as you go into the weekend, you have an opportunity to enjoy everything that's great about Montana, and think about if you do run into barriers, if you run into things that could work better, what would you hope your community leaders, your politicians offer as solutions? And if you're interested in how do you get your solutions in front of the decision makers in your community, reach out, drop a comment below. We have trainings on how to influence policy, and that is the first real concrete step of making Montana culture disability culture, is getting people who care on a human level about their neighbors and about the quality of life in Montana to get the skills and then start to use those skills to influence policymakers. So if you want to do that, just drop a comment. We will connect offline and set you up with some trainings and some opportunities to influence policymakers. This is Montana. There are 1 million people. There are many, many cities in the United States that are 1 million people. So we're one decent sized city spread out over hundreds and hundreds of miles. You can totally shape Montana policy as an individual. And you may not know it, but 300 miles away, there's another person in Montana who has the same issue, and another person, another 400 miles from them, who has the same issue. And we'll put you 3 together with another 2, and now you've got a coalition of 5 people who are contacting legislators. That's a movement in Montana. I'm telling you, as an advocate, that is enough to start some major change. So if you saw this and you thought, I would never attend a tourist destination for people who are unhoused. I think people who are unhoused should be supported, but that's a ridiculous idea. And you've got some good ideas, reach out. We'll put you together with some other people who reach out with some good ideas, and we will help facilitate. We're not going to guide on how you get there. I'm sure whatever you come up with will be better than Homeless Island, but we'll put you in touch with the right politicians, whether they're state level or local, national, and help you get your voice heard. So again, thanks. Have a wonderful weekend, and stay tuned for another episode of Growth Rings coming out on Monday. So